exceptions. We ready?
You didn't miss all that running stuff, did you?
You know, there's advantages to certain things. You think there's not, but
All set? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Thursday, November 4th, regular meeting of the Asheboro City Council. We'll remind you that this meeting is live streamed on YouTube. If you will, join me by standing, and I invite you to meditate, pray in any manner that you are comfortable, and we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. When you came in, you noticed we had on the screen above us here a listing of our city employees that are former servicemen, veterans, I guess. And wanted to just make mention of the fact that we have quite a few and representative of all areas of military service, and we are so proud of the veterans that we have employed at the city of Ashford. They are part of a great team, and they are the grease that makes the wheels of city government turn well. So wanted to recognize them, and we, as Veterans Day is coming up Thursday. Is that right? Is it parade is Thursday? A week from today.
Week from today.
Okay, and they are planning to have the parade this year, right? As far as we know. Okay. And in the audience tonight, we have two people that were two newly elected people that will be sworn in December to serve on the city council. We have Bill McCaskill and Kelly Heath, who were both prevailed in their campaign to win a seat on council. And that leads me to the next thing. We're awful sorry that the Snugs down here did not prevail. We've enjoyed serving with you, and she'll be here in December to see the new people sworn in. And Ms. Carter, after how many years?
20
20 years.
January.
20 years sitting here, has decided to give it up and to not seek re-election. So we will be here in December to honor her 20 years of service too. Mr. Evans. Is your counterpart here?
No, sir, she is not. She called me this morning. She has an illness in the family and just regretted that she couldn't be here with me this evening. So,
You go right ahead, sir.
all right. Thank you, sir. And thank you, everyone, for letting me come and talk to you tonight about the United Way campaign and kind of where that is this year in comparison to the last few years. So the first thing that I want to do, though, is to recognize the steering committee who has served on the United Way campaign for this year. So we have, of course, from the city manager's office, Mr. Ogburn, who has continued with his leadership of the campaign and all of his support and the incentives that he has allowed us to offer to help the campaign. Of course, Joanne Cockman, Jimmy Cagle with the Facilities Maintenance Department. We have Captain Joins, who has been a new member this year, and then Pam Smith, also from the Fire Department. From HR, we have, of course, Kristen, Doug Kemp, and then we have Tina Lee from Culture and Recreation Services. We have, as a new member, Captain Wagner from the Police Department. We have Jamie Wright representing all the different departments of Public Services and Operations and Public Works. We have Sarah Laughlin, who's a new member with the wastewater plant, and then Tracy Manus with the water plant. So we have representatives from each of our different departments and facilities. So we have had some changes over the last 3 years. If many of you may remember, last year we were not able to meet in person because of the even worse situation with the pandemic than where we have been this year. So that worked a little bit different than before 2000, when we were having 10 to 11 different meetings in 5 different facilities, from the city hall to the public works to the police department, fire department, just going to all those different offices. Some of those, of course, were very much in close quarters, and so we didn't have the in-person meetings last year. We basically had what was called a rollover campaign, where folks could continue to make that same donation. We did have some videos available for people to be able to look at, of the different 14 agencies with United Way last year. This year we decided we wanted to try to get back together in person, but just do it where folks could spread out. We have some more safety protocols doing that in the new Asheboro Recreation Center gym. So we had 5 different meetings with our different departments, where folks from each of those departments could attend just the meeting that worked best for them and for their department schedule. And then the fire department, they were not able to make either of those, any of those meeting times, so they had their own meetings. They just happened to have training scheduled around that same time in the middle of October. So they just did those independently. And so this year we raised just under $38,000. And so I'm very pleased that was over $10,000 more than last year. Our last record was in 2019, and it was more than $2,000 over 2019. And we had a total of 132 givers who gave, and then 121 of those gave a what's called a caring share. That's an hour's worth of their pay every month. We've had a lot more caring share givers, and we had several folks who gave more than that. So we had a lot of really good support this year. And we also, of course, thank Mr. Ogburn for some of the incentives we were able to offer, and I think that, as I mentioned before, that really does help encourage folks to make those donations. Those included some gift cards to local restaurants, some tool kits. We gave away a television this year, some sporting event tickets, and other local restaurant gift cards to support those local businesses. And so the other announcement is, as many of you know, there are some county-wide incentives from different businesses that support United Way. One of those is a car giveaway every year, and we have one employee who is going to be one of the 8 finalists in that, who is Mr. Bradley Owens with the fire department. So we certainly are going to wish him the very best. We still have, he won the 3rd drawing, and we still have 5 more weeks where there's a name drawn every week, and then the 8 finalists go to the auto mall. One of those keys is going to be able to start the car. So we have had several winners over the years from the city. So we certainly hope that works out. So at this time, I'll be glad to take any questions.
A question? Don, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
You and Kristen do a great job, and it's a point of pride that the city does such a good job with United Way.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Won't stand up, dude. Yeah, we'll just stand up right here. Every year, the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada
Is that literally?
make awards city of Asheboro, this is our finance officer, Debbie Reeves. And every year, for the last 20 years, ever since you came to work here. She wouldn't say that out loud, but ever since Debbie Reeves came to work here, the city of Asheboro has been awarded a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. And this, I'm gonna read this so I won't mess it up. The report has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivation and motivate potential users and user groups to read the report. The certificate of achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting. So, Ms. Reeves is directly responsible for 20 years of receiving this award. And we have this plaque that we keep on display in the lobby downstairs, and we were just awarded 2020, the fiscal year 2020, another little stick on for the plaque. And I wanted to highlight this with Debbie and tell her that we, the city council, and we, the city, are so proud of the job you do. And every year when our auditor stands up here and gives us our financial report, he has a clear audit, clean audit, and tells us that that Debbie and her staff are the best people he works with. So,
thank you.
Debbie, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Okay, now is the appointed time for a public comment period. And if there's anyone in the room that would like to address the council on any items of concern or city business, this would be the time. Come on up, James.
How you doing, Mayor, City Council members? Tonight, I want to talk very briefly about the problem I seen on Saturday on Albemarle Road. I was traveling, me and my wife, and the homeless people got a tent out there. And I don't think we need that. I really don't think we need that kind of problem right there on that exit coming off in Albemarle Road. We don't need that problem. We really don't. And I'm asking the city council tonight to go into their, whoever to talk to and see if we can dissolve that problem before it gets even bigger than what it is. And I think that we got qualified people on this board can do that, and I hope y'all can do that. And my next thing I want to talk about very briefly is that we got a problem on the east side. I don't live on the east side, but I talked to a lot of people, and I even went over and seen it for myself. We got these houses over there, these bootlegger houses, just popping up everywhere, especially on Tucker Street. And these people in the east side home, they can't sleep at night because of these problems, you know. And we need to address this. We can sit here, I can sit here and come here every month and talk about these problems, but we got to do something about them. We got to do something about these problems. And my next thing is that hotel out here on Albemarle Road, it needs to be dissolved some kind of way. We need to dissolve that problem. We're having ODs after one after another. And so I'm asking the city council to look into these things. I know y'all got the power to do whatever, but the thing of it is, we got to quit talking about it, and we got to do something about these problems. This is a serious issue in Asheboro. Are we going to become like Greensboro, that we let people just do whatever they want to? And I don't like to go out there to Walmart. You got the homeless people just everywhere on both sides of the road. I mean, on both sides, coming in and going out. You can't go in there and shop very safely because these people are begging money. They even got tents on the side out there. My thing of it is, what are we going to do about it? I'm asking the city council, what can we do to combat this problem? What can we do?
You want me to answer?
Yeah, I want you to answer. That's why I'm here tonight.
Walmart,
Yes, sir.
where you turn off of 64, that's a private street. We have no jurisdiction there.
Okay.
Both lanes going in and out. That's private road. That's why the potholes are big enough to hide a car in.
But can the city go out?
Private property belongs to the Walmart developer, and not only will they not pave their potholes, they won't run the vagrants off. Out here on the interstate highway that you're talking about, we went out there. You called me over the weekend and Monday morning, had the manager out there and our public works people out there. and our attorney has been consulted, and it's unfortunate. This particular person has a flag planted in the ground, and it's a political flag that has the F word on it. And we cannot do anything about it. It's freedom of speech. And we have an ordinance that says you can't do that in the highway right of way. And we cannot even enforce our ordinance because right now everybody is so enamored with protecting everybody's freedom. So it's embarrassing. I don't want that guy out there any more than you do. You come to us every month and have the approach that we're not doing anything. That's not true. We are concerned about these things too. We want to close down the drug houses, the little bootleg joints and stuff, and every time we send undercover officers in there and arrest somebody, the courts let them go, and they pop up next door, or 2 doors down, or 3 doors down, or on the other side of the street. So, it's whack-a-mole. It's just like whack-a-mole, and we're concerned about it. We're not sitting up here in our ivory tower, James, pretending it's not there. It reflects on all of us. And I can tell you personally, I haven't spent 24 years sitting right here to let crap like that ruin our city. I fuss about it too. And we talk to the police, and the police do what they can. And the city manager does what we can. We've torn down over 100 houses in this town, derelict, run-down, dilapidated houses in the last 10 years. We try, and there are no easy answers. And there again, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. You close one, another one pops up. I'm making excuses here. I know that's what it sounds like, but we are not ignoring the problem.
My biggest concern, Mayor, is that when you can ride in the area and you got these houses operating the way they operate, is that you got small kids just running across the street, unmaintained by an adult. And then they block the road to where you can't get through the road. Then, wait a minute, and then when you call the police department, they take their time getting there. They take their time getting there. But the thing of it is, this is an ongoing problem.
And you think they take their time getting there on purpose?
No, I didn't say purpose, Mayor. I didn't say that.
Well,
I said
you're saying it, if they take their
I
time
said they
getting
take,
there.
wait a minute, let me finish. They take their time, maybe they on another call. I don't know. I don't know how they function with that situation. Maybe they're on another call. But the thing of it is, this is an ongoing problem that can be addressed. I understand that you gotta get people in there to, whatever,
You can't
undercover.
block the road.
Yeah.
The kids need supervision.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are things we can do about that.
Okay, and I hope that we can do something very quickly. And my biggest concern as a citizen right here in Asheboro is that are we gonna have a repeat that we had down here at the store several months ago, last year, that where we get somebody shot? That's what I'm concerned about, because when these places pop up, they are known for trouble, the big trouble spots. They are known for it.
Absolutely.
And the thing of it is, we got a big problem right here in Asheboro, the drugs and all that kind of stuff. And I look at this city. I grew up here, went to school here and all this stuff. I never seen anything like this. And I've been out 40-some years, and I never seen anything like this in Asheboro. It's getting worse than the bigger cities. The bigger city, like Greensboro. I never thought that this kind of stuff that I see in Greensboro would come to Asheboro. And I work in Greensboro and High Point, Winston-Salem, and Charlotte. I travel a bigger area, and I see this stuff. But I never thought this stuff would come to the hometown that I live in that's only 26,000 people, and it's 8 miles long. I never thought that. But I'll leave it at that, and I'll be back next month, and I want to thank you for letting me speak.
Let me tell you about the hotel before you leave.
She's,
The Motel 6, they have lost their franchise. The Motel 6 signs are covered up. The place, that property is for sale.
good.
Now, and we believe that it's as simple to fix that problem as the owner not leasing or renting rooms to locals. That's where we're getting our problem. He doesn't rent to the same people up at the Quality on the other side of the block there. And they don't have quite the problem they have at Motel 6. So, it's all in the management. And there was an article in the paper about how many times we respond there compared to all the other hotels, and it's way out of balance.
Well, matter of fact, you had like over 100 calls out there at the Motel 6. And that thing up on the corner, Randolph Inn, ain't no better than that thing down there at Motel 6. So both of them's right there in the middle that's doing the same thing. But,
Quality right next door is not.
well, you know, that's better quality people. But anyway, you have a,
Same owner.
I just want to say that Katie and I both have, Katie especially has worked the east side area and calling the chief a lot of times and then talking with the officers. And then we spent one afternoon riding around on the east side, you know, where's this drug house, or, you know, this is a drug house. These are the kids that are playing out in the yards, you know, and there's nobody out here with them. So I've seen that, I've been with her, and we have talked to the chief, we've talked to the city manager. One thing we don't realize sometimes is we don't get our undercover cops here because they know who they are. But what we do is we work with the feds. Well, if it's a feds case, we have to keep our hands off of it. And that's one that's been fairly in the last year, that we couldn't do anything because of the feds. So, and that holds us up in taking care of some major things that need to be done.
what I'm trying to say is, and I'm gonna be very,
But I agree with you.
yeah, I'm gonna say this. I want us to come together as a community and do something. And I'm not saying, I'm not here to bash y'all. You're doing the best you can. I'm here to just say, look,
Remember.
let's come together and do something as a community. I'm asking my leaders that I voted in office. I'm asking you to do something. And I'd like to say to you tonight, my leaders that got elected and my new leaders that got elected, I want y'all to be more visible in the community. Be more visible in the community. Go out and talk to people and ask them what their concerns are. I don't see y'all. I don't see you in the community. Only time I ever see y'all is election time. It's the only time I see you. But I want to see you more visible in the community, not just in the east side of town, all over Asheboro. Asheboro in a whole's got a problem. And I'd like to see my leaders that I voted for out asking the community, hey, what can we do for you? How can we change things? How can we help? That's what I'm asking you. And that's not too much to ask.
No,
And I want to say this is closing. Katie, I'm sorry for your loss, but I love you like a mom. But all my new leaders that got in, hope y'all do a great job. I know you will. And I want you to enjoy your retirement, whatever you're going to do. Got a great husband. I know y'all going to travel, but I'll see you next month, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. We look forward to seeing you next month. All right. Anybody else in the room that would like to address the council? Okay. Council, you have in front of you the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that you would like to remove for individual consideration or discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Have a motion by Mr. Burks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Bell. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. Mr. Nuttall, item 7A is an application, RZ 21-13 to apply B2 zoning to a portion of 1801 United States Highway 64 East and 1819 United States Highway 64 East. Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a application that is filed on behalf of the property owner by Mr. H.R. Gallimore. We are looking at 3 Randolph County pins. There's 2 addresses that comprise the subject parcels. This is a request to take the property to a general commercial zoning district from a medium and low-density residential district. The size of the request is just under 2 acres. There is currently a single-family dwelling on the subject parcel. The property is on the north side of Highway 64 East, just past the East Salisbury Street intersection. It is the property outlined in blue on this map. That yellow denotes residential zoning in the area. All that red you see is the commercial zoning along the Dixie Drive corridor as well as the East Salisbury Street corridor. As you move further north from the property, you'll see R40, low-density residential zoning. And as we move further east, away from the subject parcel, you'll see just uncoded land. That is property that's outside the city's planning jurisdiction. We zoom in a little closer, you'll see there's 3 pins involved in this request, not the totalness of those properties, but there are 3 pins involved. They're denoted by A1, A2, and A3 up on this map. The property identified by letter E is also owned by the owner filing this request, but we're just looking at A1, A2, and A3 this evening to bring that property into commercial zoning designation like the owner's property denoted by letter E. There is a topographic map we've included in the report, which is up on the slide. These maps also show the existence of city utilities in the area. This map is a little misleading because you can see the water line that's on the south side of Highway 64. But I'll point out the Save-A-Lot commercial property to the east is actually in the city limits and is connected to city sewer. They actually pump to the city main, I believe in that manhole in East Salisbury Street up the road. So there is sewer generally in the vicinity. It may take some pump to access our system. This is the aerial of the subject parcels. You can see the car dealership to the west, which is also in the city limits, Zone B2. I mentioned the Save-A-Lot property to the east, which is also Zone B2. You see the county's property on the south side, which is slated for the future agricultural center and the other development pattern in that area. This is a view of the subject property as seen from Highway 64. This is looking east from the subject parcel. The Save-A-Lot property is on the left there. This is looking back west along Highway 64, subject property to the right. And this is Ragsdale Road, which is a privately maintained right-of-way that provides access from Highway 64 to properties along this private right-of-way. As I said, the properties outside the city limits, it is within our extraterritorial planning jurisdiction. We note that should a future commercial development be proposed for this site and utilities proposed, that would require annexation into the city. Highway 64 is maintained by the NCDOT. It is a boulevard or major thoroughfare classification. The B2 district, which is requested, is defined as intended to serve convenience goods, shopper goods, retail and service needs of the motoring public. It's a district that should always be located with access directly to minor thoroughfares or higher classification streets. We'll point out that the approval of this request would allow any use authorized by the zoning ordinance in the B2 to develop on the property by right. This area, including the properties adjacent to the subject property, have seen a transition from residential to commercial uses over time. You saw that with the commercial project to the east that was rezoned and annexed and sewered. We'll note that the western portion of the property is subject to that Ragsdale Road easement, so any future development would have to abide by whatever the terms of that easement and that private agreement between the property owners there. It does not provide the principal means of access for the property. That's provided by US Highway 64. We'll note that along with other zoning requirements, which would include paving of required parking, installation of landscaping, any type of new commercial construction requiring a building permit and located on this street generally is going to require the owner developer to install a sidewalk along the property's frontage. You saw that with the sidewalk that was constructed by the Joins when they constructed the Save-A-Lot Center. As we look at the land development plan recommendations for guidance on this request, it is in fact proposed to be developed for commercial uses by the land development plan. It's part of the small area plan's eastern map, and it is also slated as an economic development area of the city. Not surprisingly, with those recommendations, we find that there's 6 goals and policies that tend to be supportive of a commercial rezoning application. Only one that tends to be more negative towards the application. As the staff and the planning board consider consistency and whether this is a reasonable request and serves the public interest, we do note that the request is consistent with commercial designation of both part of the subject property as well as adjoining properties. If you look at the East Small Area Plan, it does talk about providing opportunities and areas for future commercial expansion, specifically along Highway 64. This approval of this request would do that. Again, we're looking at a property that's within an economic development area, and the adjacent residential property is currently vacant, and buffers, there would be buffers required to mitigate any compatibility concerns. So for those reasons, both the staff and the planning board send this to council with a favorable recommendation. Just as a reminder, 2 actions for the council to consider. One is whether the request is consistent with your land development plan and a reasonable request, and then obviously the rezoning request action on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Noel? Mr. Gallimore, do you want to speak to the council regarding this request?
Yes, I'm H.R. Gallimore with Remax Central Realty. Thanks for letting me speak to you, Mr. Mayor and the council. I think Mr. Nuttall covered it pretty well. It meets the long-range map plan. I think this is consistent with what we've seen in growth in this sector, and I suspect anything else in residential will be here to see for like and same. I have heard from John that there's a good possibility, it's in discussion about maybe extending sewer, on out to this sector. I look forward to that happening, and I think it's consistent with what we're trying to do here as a city. Any questions?
We are working on a plan right now to take the sewer down, all the way down to the John Muir.
I knew it was in discussion, yeah.
No questions? All right, thanks, sir. Is there anyone in the room that would like to address the council regarding this request? Okay, hearing none, we will move to the deliberative phase of our discussion, and I will ask the council for their thoughts.
Mayor, based on the staff's consistency statement, which I think is appropriate, I move that we approve not only the consistency statement, but the rezoning request to rezone.
I have a motion by Mr. Bell to approve the request, approve the consistency statement and the rezoning request jointly with one motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Carter. Okay. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Gallimore.
Let me add for the record, letters were mailed on September 21st. That makes John happy.
All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Nolan. Item 7B is the first reading of ordinance amending the Code of Ashford to include references to Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statute and implement in compliance with Session Law 2021-138, Senate Bill 300, the removal of default criminal penalty associated with violation of city ordinances.
Thank you, Mayor. This item has been worked on by Mr. Sugg. He has drafted proposed amendments to the Code of Asheboro ordinances that are intended to bring the city's code into conformity with recent session law, and that law is 2021-138. Do you all have the packets of that information? Yes, okay, good. I wasn't sure if those were there. The session law that these amendments are designed to bring the city into conformity with is a broad criminal justice reform law. It includes language that decriminalizes some local ordinances, and in some instances, removes criminal penalties for certain violations. So under this recent state law, all local governments are required to amend their ordinances to specifically identify what violations may be enforced criminally as opposed to through other remedies such as civil penalties or other court action. So the proposal before you is intended to take that required action by decriminalizes certain offenses that the state law may say that we no longer are able to utilize criminal penalties for, but it also provides for those certain offenses where the city would wish to maintain a criminal penalty remedy. I know Jeff could go into a lot greater detail on this legislation and how those proposed amendments align with the code. I believe he's working on, he may very well be working on some of this right now. I will try to answer any questions that you may have about these amendments. I do think that there is a deadline approaching to get these codes into alignment with state law. I'll note that on Monday, we presented information about this law to the planning board and asked it for feedback on any of the city codes that have a relationship to land use regulations. That was done this past Monday, and the board, citing the land development plans, recommendation to ensure that our ordinances are kept current with state law, did find that the proposed amendments are necessary and reasonable, and so there is a recommendation from staff as well as the planning board for adoption of these proposed amendments. I'll note that because there is a land use component, some of these penalties and codes affect how the city regulates land use. For that reason, you are required to consider consistency with the land development plan as part of your deliberation and action. This would be a first reading of this ordinance, and so there would need to be a second reading at a subsequent meeting for ultimate adoption. But I'll be happy to answer any questions. But again, this is an effort to decriminalize certain offenses consistent with what the General Assembly says we need to do.
And this is a comprehensive list we have here. I mean, essentially, it's just administrative land use things.
Yes. Land use specific is one of the areas that the city is prevented under this law from utilizing criminal remedies.
From our perspective, everything, I guess, becomes a civil matter, but I'm surprised fair housing is listed in there, because I would imagine some of those things could turn criminal in a certain way, but that'd not be under our purview.
That would not be under a local ordinance.
A higher authority in the DA or somebody, I guess.
Yes, sir.
That sounds reasonably.
One thing I will say, I believe with the one area where that remedy is still retained is as it pertains to unsafe structures and the city's regulation of unsafe structures and offenses that may occur under that law. That is still an area where the city can utilize criminal penalties.
So no more felonious rezoning.
Correct.
Is there a statutory requirement of how much time between the first and second reading? And the reason I ask is we have a call for a special call meeting on the 18th, and that might be the time to do the second reading.
I believe if it is able to be done at that meeting, that most likely will be done.
Because don't we have a December 1st deadline?
I believe so, yes. I believe that date is approaching.
All right, well, we'll pursue that.
Thank you.
If there's no statutory reason, we can't.
At the call meeting.
All right.
So we would, again, we would ask for a consideration of the, moving forward with these proposed amendments and considering its consistency with the city's land development plan, referencing our goal to maintain consistency with state law in this
Need a
instance.
motion.
Yes,
We're making a motion to be consistent with our own consistency.
consistent with, yes, consistent with state laws, yes,
I'm in favor of that.
that's right. In alignment with our own policies and consistent with state law, I would say.
Oh, you got that?
Is this like when the queen is in agreement with herself?
All right, we have a motion.
Second. Oh,
Do I
you
have
need a motion, a more formal motion? Okay,
I think that's fine.
I think we're good. Yeah. I would second.
Okay, we have a second by Mr. Bell, the motion by Mr. Moffett. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. You will see that again.
We can't wait.
Okay, Mr. Leonard, you gonna do it from over there?
Yes, sir.
All right, item 8A is consideration of a contract between the city of Asheboro and CPL Architects and Engineers.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. RFQs were advertised for the architect and engineering firm for the proposed McCrary Ballpark renovation project. We received two RFQs by the October 21st deadline. While both RFQs were both responsive and highly qualified firms due to their past work with the city of Asheboro and their knowledge of the McCrary Ballpark renovations project. The engineering department has recommended CPL, Architectural Engineering and Planning, as the architect for the McCrary Ballpark renovation project. In your packets, you have a contract for approval of the CPL for CPL to begin work. And the funds for the contract have already been approved at a previous meeting, and staff recommends adoption by reference.
Do we have any questions, Mr. Leonard, regarding this contract with CPL for construction management? No questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve by reference.
Mayor, I move we approve the contract by reference as.
Motion by Mr. Bell, do I have a second? Second. Second, Mr. Swears, discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries, thank you. 8B is an announcement of the selection of Rogers Builders Incorporated as construction manager at risk for this same project.
Yes, sir. RFQs were also advertised for the construction manager at risk with a due date for October 18th, 2021. We received 4 RFQs, and while all were received were responsive and highly qualified, one firm stood out above the rest due to their experience and knowledge in ballpark construction. Rogers Builders, Inc. has completed multiple ballpark projects, including the BB&T ballpark, which is the Charlotte Knights Stadium. And the engineering department is recommending Rogers Builders, Inc. for the CMR. Upon completion of the plans with the architect, plans and specifications with the architect for the phased ballpark renovations, staff will negotiate a contracted amount with Rogers and bring that back to council for approval.
Okay. So we don't have an action to take now?
Don't believe so, no, sir.
All right, just when you get a price,
That's correct.
a negotiated price, we'll make a motion to enter into that contractual agreement.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Michael, you also have Asheboro Airport Authority recommendations?
Yes, sir. RFQs for the airport planning and engineering services were advertised, and statements for qualifications were submitted by 4 qualified engineering firms. Delta Airport Consultants, Inc., Eden and Associates, Parrish and Partners, and W.K. Dixon. All 4 were complete, on time, and outstanding qualifications, and had the experience in aviation field. However, due to the size of their firm and the specialization in aviation facilities comparable to the Asheboro Regional Airport, partnered with their experience on similar projects to those at Asheboro Regional, along with their long-standing and positive working relationship and their quality of work. W.K. Dixon appears to be the best choice to retain for the airport planning and engineering services. This was presented to the Airport Authority at their regular meeting on October 19th, 2021, and is brought to you tonight as a recommendation from the Airport Authority to select W.K. Dixon to provide airport planning and engineering services for airport improvements for the next 5 years.
You know, once you get started with them, they don't hardly have any competition.
That's
And to
right.
reinvent the wheel, you just, not that they don't do a good job, and comparatively their prices are in line, but it's just where you at.
That's right.
Any questions? Entertain a motion to follow the recommendation of the Asheboro Airport Authority in contracting with W.K. Dixon to provide engineering services for the next 5 years.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve W.K. Dixon Company for engineering services for the Ashford Airport.
Have a motion by Mr. Moffett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. And one last, Mr. Leonard, you're gonna give us some long-awaited information on the new crosswalks.
So you actually have or in your packets, you have some printouts showing different elephant tracks and other animal tracks. Also on the screen, you'll see a mock-up of the proposed tracks in the herringbone brick pattern. This has been completed by Paveway Systems. We have been in contact with them, and staff has determined the proper the areas of the downtown area that need to be completed. Tracks will include rhinoceros, bison, elephants, giraffe, grizzly bears, and polar bears. A purchase order has been issued, and we expect installation in the coming months, weather permitting.
Will there be a crosswalk at the railroad track there at the Flying Pig?
Yes.
On here somewhere.
And it may not be in there, but I just included.
I'm not sure what the notes tell me. It just says this crosswalk only. I mean, it looks like there is one. I'd had somebody ask me about that particular crosswalk specifically.
All of the existing downtown crosswalks should be included on Sunset.
Very good.
Those elephant tracks are gonna be cool. They're 15 inches wide, 19 inches long. Or, is that inches? Eyes. It is inches, is it not? Somebody's got better eyes than me. They're life size.
Which one?
Yes, they are life-size.
Polar bears at the railroad track there.
Some of them, they did have to blow up to get them a little larger. I think the bison and maybe the bears.
Well, we've been waiting for this a long time, and some of you might know the story I've told a couple of times. I was in Rambleman about a year and a half ago. Guy came up to me and said, "I can't believe you guys paved over those crosswalks, those brick crosswalks downtown." And I said, "What?" He said, "The brick crosswalks on Sunset Avenue." I said, "That was asphalt. That was stamped asphalt." No, it wasn't. It was brick.
I need to sell him some diamonds.
He argued with me for 2 or 3 minutes. He walked across those things a few dozen times, and he knew they were brick. So, I guess that's a testament to the quality of the work that the stamping company did, coloring and stamping that asphalt. So, we're excited about getting these done. We've been waiting quite a while. All of our crosswalks are in pretty miserable shape
sir.
right now, with repaving and utility cuts and everything else.
Now, this is a proposal. You'll be taking prices?
No, sir, we've actually already issued
Contract's already been
yeah. So it was budgeted, I think in the 2020 year, and, with, the pandemic, the company that was supposed to be doing the work has had issues with getting, employees to come do the work and stuff, so they're
Getting the
finally
materials.
getting back.
We've got roads with no stripes, nothing, can't
Yeah.
get the thermoplastic, can't get the paint, but who is the contractor? Is it county?
Paveway Systems.
Okay, so that's good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr.
sir.
Leonard. Good work. Well, I'm gonna get there in a second. John and I have discussed this, and I'm calling for a special meeting to be held at 7 PM on Thursday, November 18th in this room. And the primary purpose of that will be to receive the information for the Newbern Avenue drainage project that we've been hearing about for a year now. And we've asked them to go back and revisit a couple of different alternatives there, or scenarios, and pretty involved information, so we're just gonna have a special meeting to go over that, and maybe that same meeting we'll be able to advertise that second reading of the amendments. So put that on your calendar, please.
Hopefully they'll have another foot or two of safety factor there, be nice.
Okay, city council meeting schedule for 2022. We generally, you can see what our meeting is in the one proposed change. We have in the past changed Labor Day, but Labor Day coming up on the 8th, if we wait, it puts our regular meeting at the middle of the month, which is pretty late for our normal meeting, so we believe we're better off just to take our chances on the 8th. Very few people take the whole week for Labor Day as a holiday, I mean, as a week's vacation, so we will.
I used to, but I had a person about this talk change that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So, the one change, if it suits everybody, would be the Independence Day, would be moved from the 7th to the 14th, because that is a week when many people are out of town. Everybody good with that?
When are they gonna have the planning board meeting in September?
Maybe the last day of, last week of,
August?
August.
we have moved that date around based on what council is on.
Yeah. Okay, upcoming events. The horse parade is this Sunday at 3 PM. They have a different lineup this year. They're staging their trailers and horses at the Sunset Avenue Church of God because Courier Tribune is not available anymore. The old Courier Tribune lot is not available. And so they will come up and go down Park Street to the post office, come back down Church and back down Sunset to Sunset Avenue Church of God. Usually quite a few horses in that. Veterans Day Parade, Thursday, November 11th. That's next Thursday at 4 PM downtown. Chamber of Commerce Rotary Club joint project on the 2021 Field of Honor begins Thursday the 11th with a opening ceremony, and will close on Sunday the 14th with a closing ceremony. And if you've never been out there, it's a pretty impressive sight to behold. And if you can ride by at night, it is really special, something to see. And flags are available. The purpose of this is to honor not only veterans or your heroes, but also your heroes. They don't have to be veterans. They can be anybody that you feel is deserving of recognition and honor. And for $40, you can purchase a flag in their honor. There'll be a ribbon and a name tag on the flag. There will be a map showing the location of the flag you purchased. And after the event, after the closing ceremony, you are allowed to take the flag home if you so desire, or you can leave it and let them sell it again next year. That good? That about it? That cover it well? Okay. Encourage you to go out and buy a flag and honor family members or your heroes, veterans, people that you just believe that, need to be recognized and honored. There will be, the Randolph County Honor Guard is part of the ceremony. There will be a speaker and 21-gun salute and presentation of colors and patriotic music, so it's a pretty neat event.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize for interrupting, but while you're talking about the veterans, there is an item that's not on the agenda that has to be dealt with regarding that. The horse parade, they don't close up, Public Works doesn't need to close off the whole street, it's escorted. But for the Veterans Parade, they do close off the street, starting at Church, going on
A regular
Sunset.
parade route.
Parade route.
By the courthouse.
By the courthouse. Public Works will need to have authority to close the street. Only the council can grant that, a temporary closure of those streets from 3 PM to 6 PM on November the 11th, and that does need a vote of the council.
May I have a motion to that effect? Mayor, where was that? Mr. Burks? Okay, second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Bell, discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the United Way, through the generosity of Post Cereal, formerly Multi-Meal, United Way is usually given a $10,000 donation in the form of 10,000 bags of cereal. The cereal sale is Saturday, November 13th at 9 until noon, or whenever the cereal is sold out. The cereal is $1 a bag, and that translates if they sell all the bags, and you can buy 1 or 2, or you can buy 20 or 30. Buy whatever you think you'd like to buy for $1 a bag, and I have suggested many times over the years that you buy 20, take 5 or 6 home, and leave the rest for the Salvation Army or the CUOC. They will have places set up out there. You can leave your cereal that you purchase and make a donation. And so this is a good event for the city and through the generosity of Post Cereals. Saturday, November 13th.
It doesn't say where.
It's at Bicentennial Park. Always is. I'm assuming it still will be. And they have a drive-through here. That's gonna be interesting. But we'll see. Okay, city offices closed for Thanksgiving on the 25th and 26th. Christmas parade, Christmas parade is a drive-through event this year. All the floats, traditional Christmas floats will be lined up on Church Street in their normal position to start the parade, and the viewers, the spectators, will come in from Walker Avenue up by the high school, and they will ride by the parade, and all the people on the floats will be waving at the cars. And so it's called a reverse Christmas parade. It is a drive-through Christmas parade. The floats will not move. And that's traditional first Friday, December 3rd at 7 PM. Encourage you to come out. And this is an abundance of caution. We just don't feel like at this point in time that it's safe enough to have 8 to 10,000 people elbow to elbow on the streets of Asheboro, watching for Santa Claus. So, there are 2 other Christmas events that are not on this list.
2 other Christmas?
Christmas caroling. Join us on a downtown Asheboro riding tour to experience the retelling of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol and see Christmas lights on Sunday the 5th, the 12th, and the 19th at 5 o'clock, 6:30, and 8 PM. Three tours on 3 different Sundays during December. They've hired a traditional old-style trolley, and you'll ride on the trolley through the downtown and see the Christmas lights, and actors and caroling groups will join you on the trolley and at certain stops along the way, and enjoy your Christmas carols. And then Modern Toyota is partnering with our Parks and Rec Cultural Resources on a Christmas tree display at Bicentennial Park. Stroll through Bicentennial Park as it is transformed into a dazzling Christmas tree display. Local families, schools, and organizations decorate their tree in a competition to win a donation provided by Modern Toyota to the nonprofit of their choice. You can participate, in your family or your business or your organization can decorate a tree. And if you don't want to do that, you can certainly come and stroll through the park and take advantage of all the creative talents in Asheboro when it comes to tree decorating. And I'm sure with piped-in music and different things, it would be a great way to get the Christmas spirit. And that is, I don't know when. The event is not listed, but this is a call for participants, registration. So be looking, keep your eyes open and find out when this is. It probably lasts more than a day, more than one night. It'll probably last a week or so, so you tour through there. That's all I have. Jeff, you got something else, obviously.
Yes, sir, we'll need to revisit an issue from earlier. I normally don't have a computer problem, keep me away, but this one was important. Let me add on that, I want to take ownership. You know, the computer problem, it is the operator. So I'm not blaming that.
While he's passing that out, let me say, John Ogburn is out of town tonight. This is an excused absence for him, and it is only the second time in his whole 30-some years of city management that he has missed a council meeting, according to him. I haven't been keeping track, but.
According to his own record keeping.
Yeah.
We'll ask Debbie, we trust her.
And he is celebrating his daughter Claire's, Mary's wedding this Saturday in Charlotte. So he is out of town for that. And
Did you say celebrating or commiserating?
every time he writes a check, he might be commiserating.
I'm the father of the bride, how right to
All right.
taste.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Always appropriate that you call on the attorney right after you talk about painful writing checks. The reason we need to revisit this, and I know you had the hearing on the land use portion of Senate Bill 300, and I have those copies too if you want those, but I trust that Trevor went over that with you. The reason this concerns me, what I handed out to you, I wanted to separate out the sections. This section pertains to the city's general police power, more so than just the land use regulation. We're on a tight time frame. The effective date for this section of Senate Bill 300, the session law that was enacted, is December 1. Come December 1, the default position switched on the way municipal ordinances and county ordinances are viewed. Traditionally, if an ordinance was passed by either the county governing board or the city governing board, it was a misdemeanor unless you provided otherwise. Effective December 1, that flips, and you have this, according to the legislation, the city governing board, just like the county, has to go through and specify where a misdemeanor penalty is at play with an ordinance. And you can tell by what leads off on this is not our standard, because it's going to take 2 readings. That session law also says you've got to have 2 votes. You can't make it effective on the date of introduction. So I want to make sure that we get these specific provisions discussed tonight and get a first vote on that. And then when the special meeting happens on November the 18th, there will be a second vote. And that will be a much more comprehensive ordinance, because we're going to have to go through and review the entire code of ordinances and pick out every place where a misdemeanor needs to apply. Now, as I'm going through reviewing it, I'm taking a policy, what I view as a policy neutral approach, not trying to change, enhance, lessen anything, just make it work as far as where we're currently at. So to illustrate this, and before I get into the details, the reason I'm so concerned about getting this taken care of tonight with just a few, because there are a lot more. in there that deal with water, sewer, things like that. But I picked specifically the general penalty provision and Chapter 130, which deals with general offenses. That's where you have the regulation of firearms, discharging a firearm within the city, aggressive panhandling, public urination and defecation prohibitions. And the reason those are important, I think, is for the very reason the policy debate took place in the General Assembly, from what I understand. There has been a concerted effort to decriminalize all local ordinances, particularly with a fear that they duplicated what the state statutes were doing, that if it needed to be a crime, it should be handled at the state statute level. Also, there was a concern that some of the local ordinances tended to criminalize activity that reflected people in economic distress, whether they're going through poverty, some other crisis in their life, and was more appropriately dealt with not by criminal ordinance at the local level. But to the credit of the members of the General Assembly, they did listen to the other viewpoints. And while acknowledging the validity of some of the concerns, there are times when you need to be able to remove a problem situation. It may be that there is no other action at the time other than to be able to make an arrest based on an ordinance for things like firing a weapon up into the air. For aggressive panhandling, I have to be careful with the First Amendment. It has to be aggressive panhandling conduct, not speech, but things like that. You can see where public urination comes in.
Well, it does give you a expedient manner in an extreme case to deal with.
May very well not lead to a conviction, but it still gives you an ability to remove the problem from the scene at that moment.
James was here, maybe.
So, and what my worry is that the police department still needs to have access to these charges during that short time period. If I wait to just the regular schedule, we'll be past December 1 for the second introduction, and so some of these would go away as a criminal penalty. And I just want to make sure the officers at least have these fundamental ones ready. And also so that the city has civil penalties in place where things that don't need to have anyone take physical action at the time, but we still need to be in a position to discuss civil penalties. So with that said, I'll get into the very first part. You'll look at section 10.99 on the front page. That reflected the old default rule, which just went ahead and said, if you violate anything in the code book, it's a misdemeanor. And it did the same thing, talking about an infraction for parking. That won't work moving forward. So the proposal is to repeal that provision, but to put in a new provision, which is A, where no specific penalty is otherwise provided, any act constituting a violation of the provisions within this code of ordinances or a failure to comply with any of its requirements shall subject the offender to a civil penalty of $100 for each day the violation continues. And if the offender fails to pay the penalty within 10 days after being cited, we can pursue a civil action to recover that like a debt. And it also makes it clear that we have the other remedies available that the general statutes provide, such as going to court for an injunction, any sort of equitable relief. That is in there so that now whenever there's a section where we don't go through and talk about a criminal penalty, there's definitely a civil penalty that's available, and there's other enforcement action that could be taken. Then we get down to Chapter 130. And like I said, my intention with your approval is to do this throughout the whole Code of Ordinances. But for this chapter, I thought it made the point. You'll see, talking about the policy neutral approach, no provisions have been changed relating to it, except at the end, on discharging a firearm, the provision just says, a new subsection, a violation of this section is punishable as a misdemeanor. There's been some debate over well, can you get by with just saying this in the whole chapter? The way the session law is worded is a more careful approach to say that within each section, it's clearly denominated as a misdemeanor. Then there's the practical point of trying not to have to republish the entire Code of Ordinances and how to be efficient about that. So I hope you're okay with this approach. You'll notice that section just says, one sentence, it's a misdemeanor. You get down to the consumption and possession of alcoholic beverages. Once again, no substantive provisions have been changed, but when we get to the penalty section, echoing what will happen throughout the rest of the code book, if you're okay, rather than getting into General Statute 14-4, which is where you get the criminal penalty, it says a violation of this section is punishable as a misdemeanor. Just like before, simple, straightforward, shouldn't run up the cost redoing the code book. Same thing happens with aggressive solicitation. Then when you get down, we got public urination and defecation. It adds a section on is punishable as a misdemeanor. But then there's a brand new section added to the chapter. And you'll notice that 10.99 was our general penalty. It's a rule of publication that we can usually use the .99 to be a general penalty provision. So here 130.99 is enacted to state any violation of a section of this chapter that is specifically designated as a misdemeanor shall be a Class 3 misdemeanor punishable as provided in GS 14-4 with a maximum fine of no more than $500. My intention with your approval is each chapter will have that at the end. Each section within the chapter will state that it's a misdemeanor where it's currently already viewed as a misdemeanor and not just a civil penalty. And if we miss a section, we've got the general civil penalty section there saying there's still some action that can be taken. And we'll go through. So I've got to go through the whole chapter. It's going to be a really thick ordinance when you get it. But in order to get this covered, I'll cover any questions or try to answer any questions you may have, and then ask for approval of these specific provisions tonight. Then it'll come back to you in the more complete ordinance again on the 18th. So all that happens before December 1.
Jeff, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It's come clearly from inexperience and ignorance, but in reading the struck language that reads as our spec book, where it uses shall as the verb, as opposed to in our book may. They have the two different. One's depending on the condition. It appeared that there was no discretion of how to apply it, since it said shall. The sentence is, and there strikes me verbally that it, or grammatically, not grammatically, that it would have some discretion in its implementation. Am I reading too much sentence structure into that?
It's, the words are designed, and I can go back and work on them more. The words are designed to make it clear we're not trying to discriminate between anybody, that you're being given clear direction what applies. And the city is availing itself of the maximum amount available. But certainly when anything is charged,
So
that's where the
we're stating
discretion goes.
that these rules,
Yes,
laws, ordinance, that, you know, that they are an action of misdemeanor caliber.
correct.
That's
That
where
is,
the is comes in.
that is correct.
And then you address the penalty with your singular thing.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And that reference to the general penalty says you can use the state statute says you can use any penalty that's available. That way it's been made available, and you can still have discretion over which one you use. It's a good question.
Any other questions? So we can consider the first reading complete now, and we make a motion to approve the first reading.
And without objection, I'm going to recommend to the clerk that you view the land use regulations that were discussed during the public hearing as having already been approved as a first reading, and that what I have just gone over, because no public hearing was required for this portion of it. It was only for the land use section that it was required. That for the section I've just talked about with the police power, you will now have a vote, and this is the first reading and first vote on it.
So need a motion.
Yes, sir. Sure do.
Mayor, I move we adopt the changes as prescribed in the handout regarding the general penalties and the specific chapters as enumerated in 130.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Do I have a second? Second. Second, Mr. Burks. Or was that Mr. Moffett? Mr. Moffett. You spoke first.
Very good.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. We'll start down here with Ms. Redding.
I'll just say to Katie, Ms. Snuggs, Councilman Snuggs, it's been a pleasure to sit next to you for 6 years, and I will miss you on our Thursdays. And to Councilman Carter, the same thing. I've enjoyed serving with you and enjoyed your guidance and your leadership.
Ms. Snuggs. Mr. Burks.
Congratulations to those who won their election on Tuesday. And I too will miss Ms. Snuggs and Ms. Carter. And I've learned a lot from each of you. It's been a great pleasure to sit here beside you. And I feel like I've learned quite a bit from you. So, but thank you both for your service.
Mr. Moffitt.
I wanted to thank Councilwoman Snuggs and Councilwoman Carter for their service. Lot of deep history and experience there to be filled. It'll take a while to have that curve adjusted, but thank y'all for your service. I certainly appreciate everything you've done. I will be hosting a sign exchange in the parking lot immediately following at the bed of the white Ford pickup truck. So all that are interested, please come.
Well, I'll address my comments to the two newly elected councilmen and just say that you both got big shoes to fill, and y'all can decide which one it's gonna be, but one of it's gonna have to be a lot of fun to take Miss Snuggs' place. She and I have cut up and laughed and had a good time for quite a while now, and I'm gonna miss you.
You don't miss riding with you.
Well, it's been a lot of fun.
65 so.
Ms. Reeves, you have anything you'd like to add? Okay, Ms. Carter?
I'd just like to congratulate the two new winners and wish you lots of luck. Just be out there for the people to talk to and call them back when they call you and call them back when they write you.
That's right.
And rely on this council that'll be up here to help guide you through a lot of things. And I've enjoyed 20 years on this. That's more than that on redevelopment commission. But I'm still staying on that right now, so. Enjoyed it, learned a tremendous amount about the city. And if there's any way that anybody wants to learn about the city, it's come get yourself on council.
Mr. Bell?
Well, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I would like to, congratulate the new winners and Katie and Linda. We sure will miss you, and y'all been a valuable asset to me and to the rest of the council. But you have opportunities to stick around. I mean, you can still find plenty of things to do, whether it's the redevelopment commission or otherwise, but we'll miss you up here. And I also want to wish Holly Durr a happy birthday, early, but next week. Hope they keep coming. Yeah.
Mr. Swears?
Well, this is so maudlin, these people aren't going anywhere. They're still Asheboro residents. They're still, we can still call on them, I hope, when we have questions or concerns. The wealth of their knowledge doesn't disappear and just vanish. And I hope they will allow us to do that. They've been a great guide to us for a lot of years, and we want to be able to continue to rely on that. And I hope the newly elected council people will take advantage of that also. You can't let this much knowledge and this much experience just go away. And I hope they will come visit us on occasion. Wherever, you got to get James out of the way first, but you're welcome to come visit us.
Then we can make our public comments.
Each and every time, that's right. You got a public comment, you can just come right in there and just keep us abreast of what's going on. But, I'm happy to have worked with both of y'all. It's been a privilege and an honor. I look forward to working with Kelly and Bill in the future.
Okay. There's nothing else to come before this body tonight. I will adjourn the meeting and ask you all to come back in our regular December meeting on, what was that, the third? The third, and see our new councilman sworn in.
Mayor, if I may, give me a point of privilege, and, because I'll miss that meeting, Katie and Linda and Bill and Kelly, and I'm gonna be a proud owner of a new hip earlier that week. So
Good for you.
I'll be out of commission later that week, but I'll be back in full force in January.
You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube.
I will. I'll be with you in spirit. How about that?
It's the ninth, December
Will you
ninth.
be out
I'm
the
sorry.
ninth?
December the ninth.
Well, my surgery's on the first,
That's our
so,
next
So you'll be here on the
I'll
ninth?
be here on the ninth, yeah.
You will be here tonight.
I will be here on the ninth. I won't be here on the third, so.
Well, neither will we.
Well, then,
Once again,
well, never mind.
Call me Clark.
yeah, the third's the
Use my
parade,
scooter.
ninth is our meeting.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
All right.
The Chinese bar mitzvah calendar.
We're adjourned.
Join.
Thank you.
Like Roseanne was in it.
Sorry, don't run off, I got signs for you.
Okay.
There's an exchange.
Well, I gotta sign some papers.
We've got elephant,